All right, so the first structure that we have top that we're looking at is the larynx. So that the very top part is the larynx. All of this is the trachea. Now we understand that behind the trachea is the esophagus. So I'd have to lift my trachea up or cut it, and then I would be able to see the esophagus. Do you see that little flattened sac back there? That's the esophagus. So this flattened area right here, that's the esophagus, and then here is my trachea. Now, if you cut too aggressively through the neck, then you probably didn't see those very well. And then so we come down here to we have the thymus gland on top of the heart.
Sorry, I'm not trying to.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. I just don't want to
So
get.
you have your thymus gland on top of the heart. And then over here to the left and right, we have lung lobes. So there's a lot of gooiness coming out of there. Just ignore that gooiness and wiping that off. So there's some lung over there. And then over here, there's some more lung. So there's lung and there's lung. In between your lungs, between two lungs, like, you know, Florence and the Machine song. Anyway, we have the heart. So you have your heart there. And at the top, so this is your heart. And this blue structure right here, that's just one of the ventricles. And then we have the auricles up top of there. And then we have this structure right here is the aortic arch. And can you see how it's doing an arch type thing? There it goes. So atria, ventricles, aortic arch. And then on this side, we have the superior vena cava. And then underneath it, if I get rid of some more of this connective tissue, we have the inferior vena cava. And that goes all the way down through the abdominal. This fleshy part here, this is the diaphragm. So it kind of goes all the way across, and you all cut through it, and we cut through it. All of this chunkiness are the lobes of the liver. So the liver is much more pronounced and much more prominent than we'd have for a human, because rats eat a lot of different stuff. So if your liver is your detox unit, then we need to have a lot of detoxification happening there. So we have our liver lobes, and then this big sucker right here, this is the stomach. So that's the stomach right there. And then all of this kind of gooiness that happens on the bottom, right here, it doesn't look like much that's going on there. That's pancreas. So that's pancreas. An easy way to be able to determine what the pancreas is find the stomach, and then the goo that's attached to the bottom of it, that's going to be the pancreas. So as I lift my stomach out the way, this crescent-shaped organ back here, that's the spleen. Back here we have a kidney, and on top of it, this guy that I'm pushing up, that's the adrenal gland. So kidney, adrenal gland. This blue blood vessel, this is a renal vein, and then we have renal arteries if I got rid of some of this other tissue back there. Going back to the front, the stuff with the smaller circumference is your small intestine. So this is all small intestine. And then the goo that holds it together, do you guys remember hearing about the new organ they discovered in the human body?
No.
Well, they claimed to have discovered a new organ, which really wasn't a new organ. It was this stuff. It was mesenteries. So we've always had mesenteries. We've always known they were there. We're calling them an organ. So they just got a new name. They were always there. So the mesenteries hold that small intestine together. So small intestine, small intestine. Now, as we get over here, notice how the diameter of the small intestine, or the intestines gets larger. So we have a larger diameter there. So now we're getting into large intestine. So large intestine, large intestine. And then we have this kind of sackish type structure here. This is the cecum. So for rats, because they can eat all types of fibers, they have a bacteria in their gut that breaks down cellulose. So their cecum is much more pronounced than ours because they have a larger amount of bacteria that are in there. So small intestines, cecum, large intestines. That large intestines goes all the way down here. So for this, and that's just pancreas, I'm moving out the way. This large intestine is going to go on out to the anus, and it's full, so he was getting ready to have a bowel movement. I know, so don't poke him.
He was kidnapped.
Yeah. And then we have our uterine horn here. So this is a female. So this is her uterine horn, and this is where her babies would be. Now, because her uterine horn is so stretched out, and it's not nearly as firm as what I will see in some of your other rats, that leads me to believe that she probably just had babies. So there's her uterine horn, and at the top of her uterine horns, and there's also a lot of fat. Like all of this white stuff, that's just fat. So at the top of her uterine horn, you have an ovary, and I can feel it better than I can touch it. So there's the ovary right there. So that's the ovary, and then this is the uterine horn.
Sorry, that was my finger.
Oh, it's okay. So uterine horn, uterine horn. And then we have, at the base of our uterine horn, we have a bladder.
Oh, wow.
So now let's go to our boy. So the structures that we looked at before, as far as like the trachea and the thymus gland and the lungs and the liver and all that stuff, still the same. Notice how for this guy's stomach, it's not nearly as pronounced as this one is here. That's just because he didn't eat as soon as the gas came for him. He's got his little spleen there. He's got his kidney, and the color of the kidney. Remember, in a normal body, it wouldn't be a red or a blue color. That's just because we inject them with dye, and that's up here where we inject them with dye right before they die, to make sure the veins and arteries get colored. Veins are blue, arteries are red, and then we go down to this guy's reproductive structures. These two ram's horns. They look like ram's horns to me. There's one, there's the other. That's the seminal vesicle. And then you have this bladder here. Surrounding the bladder, you have the prostate gland. So there's one part of it, there's the other part of it. This guy lost his penis in the dissection, so I just removed it out of there. And then when we come down here to the bottom, we have the testes, and then we have the epididymis. So testes and epididymis, seminal vesicles, bladder, prostate gland. That happens there. Brooke, did I grab everything?
Did we talk about the scrotal sac?
Scrotal sac wasn't cut open. So this is the scrotal sac. So that's all the scrotal sac, and then when I cut him open, that's what I found hanging out on the inside.
Okay.
And then ureters.
All right, so the ureters, I'm gonna have to move some of this stuff out of here. They're gonna be coming from the kidneys, and they're really pretty thin too. Here's oops, just snapped him. Let's go this side then.
And I'm sure you pointed out the spleen.
So there's a ureter
Wow.
coming from the kidney. So the easiest way to do this is that you look for landmarks. Like I know that's a kidney, so ureters come from the kidneys. So if I have a pin sticking in this, or if I have this pin sticking in here, and I say name this structure, you're like, okay, it's coming from the kidneys. This has got to be ureter. Same thing with any of these other structures here. That if I do the trachea, and let's go ahead and just cut open his trachea. So when I cut the trachea, and do you see where there's like a second hole? I don't know if you can see that, Melissa.
I can't, but
Okay.
just use your imagination, people.
So there's a second hole back there, and that second hole, so this one's my trachea hole, and then this hole down here on the bottom, that's my esophagus hole. So if I have a pin coming out of that second hole back there, then you know, okay, this is a trachea, that's got to be the esophagus hole.
Does it have vesicular gland and seminal gland?
Oh, yeah, that's the same
We
thing.
use seminal
We
gland.
use seminal gland, yes. Okay, so over here, we have at the top of our uterine horn, so there's a uterine horn, and then there's an ovary. And then all of this other stuff is just fat surrounding it. Thank you, beautiful.